Chun-Li is one of the strongest characters in Street Fighter III Third Strike, probably the second best in the game. But despite this, I very rarely see her talked about at low and mid levels. I hear a lot more about Yon, Ken, and Makoto, and I very rarely run into this character online. I think the main reason for this is that at low and mid level, people tend to oversimplify what makes Chun so good. They just look at her and they go, oh yeah, Super 2's broken, so she's broken. When in reality, there is so much more to her than that, and it's for those reasons I love the character so much. See, Chun-Li's Super 2 is insanely good in the context of her kit, but you don't always have it. You start every game with no meter, so how does Chun-Li get to the point where she has a super? See, Chun-Li without super and Chun-Li with a super play really differently, and that's what I enjoy so much about the character. Before I talk about why I like Chun-Li and what makes her such a good character though, there's one thing about the character I really dislike, and I'm gonna get that out the way. It's that. It's her crouch. When Chun-Li crouches, she has one of, if not the shortest crouching hitboxes in the game, and because of that she can low profile a lot of stuff that she probably wasn't intended to. One of the saddest examples of this in my opinion is that Chun-Li will always duck the last hit of Elena's EX spin scythe. This one's incredibly sad to me because I've always considered Elena a bit of a shittier version of Chun-Li, with one of the few things she has over Chun-Li being her amazing EX moves. However, one of her best EX moves doesn't even work on a crouching Chun-Li, which is pretty sad. So yeah, even though I play two characters who benefit from having a short crouching hurtbox, Chun-Li and Oro, I'm not a fan of it. It just feels kind of jank, and honestly, if it wasn't in the game, I would probably prefer it. So, how do you play Chun-Li? When you don't have any meter, Chun-Li primarily just wants to poke you and keep you out. She has massive buttons that are really good for this. Chun-Li's buttons are generally really good for keeping the opponent out. She's one of the best sweeps in the game. A frame 2 crouching light punch that is +3 on block and hit. A really good poke that advances in forward heavy kick. And standing heavy punch, which is amazing. Chun-Li's standing heavy punch has massive range, 8 frame startup, and is only -2 on block. You can't get too predictable with it because it will get parried, but it's an incredible button. On top of having amazing buttons for both zoning and pressure, she has a really good Kara throw, probably the best in the game. Here's her normal throw, and here's a Kara throw. The range is pretty crazy. To do Chun-Li's Kara throw, you just press medium kick the frame before you do a throw. You can see how far her shadow moves forward. Now, I've been talking a lot about zoning, and you'd think her Kokoken would play a big part of that, especially since in this game it's not a charge move, it's half circle forward and punch. But it's honestly one of the weaker fireballs in the game. For a start, none of them go full screen. That's the light version. Here's medium, and here's heavy. The EX version does go full screen, but it's only one hit, which is unlike most EX fireballs. This makes it one of the worst EX moves in the game. I mainly just use the heavy version. I like to cancel into it from normals, mainly because even though it's not that rewarding with low damage and being -4 on block and -3 on hit, it's just nice to tag on that little extra bit of damage because Chun-Li's meterless combos are genuinely not that great. Also, for the record, if you're gonna cancel into Kokoken for pressure, please use the heavy one. Medium is -10 on block, -9 on hit, and light is -17 on block, -16 on hit. Chun-Li was holding down back that entire time. EX is kind of the same story, -7 on block, -6 on hit. As for your other options when it comes to meterlessly ending your combos, you're kind of stuck. Spinning bird kick requires charge, and it whiffs on crouching opponents. On top of whiffing on crouch, they're all unsafe on block. Light is -5, medium -6, and heavy -7. Depending on the character, they can be unsafe on hit. Heavy is -5, medium -4, and light -3, so not everyone can punish it. Luckily, EX spinning bird kick does hit crouching opponents, so if you have charge, it's a nice consistent combo ender. keep in mind though, you are spending meter to do this, which, you know, when you have one of the best supers in the game, isn't always the best choice. Azamchu is a cute little overhead. Stronger versions have more range at the cost of more startup. And EX is kind of weird. It goes nowhere, but it does knock down. You very rarely see Azamchu at top level because it's very telegraphed and is only one parry, and EX is even rarer because, you know, Chun needs her meter. Keep in mind though, that you can definitely chuck this out at low and mid level and land a cheeky overhead from time to time. No shame in that. Also, this is just for fun because you'll probably never see this ever, but you can link into Super 1 after a Azamchu on a crouching opponent. This is really rare, and you'll probably never see it, but it's kinda cute. Also, for the record, I know that Chun-Li is all about Super 2, but don't be afraid to pick Super 1, it's actually pretty good. For a start, it's a really nice anti-air, which is an area Chun-Li is actually a little weak. I think the general consensus is that you pick Super 1 against Yugo, because it's really important to stop him from getting in. Don't be afraid to pick it against other characters though, it can be fun to mess around with for sure. Super 3 is pee pee poo poo, please don't pick it. The only situation you should pick Super 3 is if you've just picked Chun on the character select screen and everyone at the venue is looking at you like they're about to beat the shit out of you. For real though, don't pick Super 3. You might be tempted because of the short bar and how much meter it gives you, but honestly, the meter for Chun is important because of Super 2. Chun-Li's EX isn't very good at all. EX legs is okay. But I'll be honest, I pretty much never use it. Just for the record, when I say I don't use them, I'm not implying that legs or EX legs are bad. They're not. It's just that I don't use them because, I talked about this on stream, I really hate moves that you input by mashing. It just never feels satisfying to me, and it always feels really awkward. This is completely a preference thing. If you want to make this work, go for it. This is just me. Okay, so I think up to now, I haven't really been that over the moon about Chun. I've just kind of been mixed. I've talked about some of her great aspects, like her pokes, but also how her special moves can be kind of underwhelming. So, let's get into some really good shit. Chun-Li's Super 2 is one of the best in the game for a lot of reasons. For a start, it's really good to close out a round through chip because it's quite an awkward parry. Speaking of parry, even if you block this at a point where you're not at risk of dying to chip, I would still try and parry the last hit. See, even though it's minus 25 on block, there's a lot of pushback, so if you want a consistent punish, I would try for the parry. Remember that this is going to be a red parry if you're playing Q, since he takes one extra frame of block stun. Also, if you're the Chun player, while you can jump cancel the last hit of Super on hit, you can't on block, so don't get any ideas about doing that to stay safe. As for jump cancelling on hit, I'm pretty sure down medium kick into jump heavy kick is your max damage. Pretty sure this is character specific though, I've never landed this on twins. You can also go for a jump medium kick if you want to reset instead of a knockdown. This can be valuable because it's much harder for the opponent to time a reversal, like a Super or an EX Shoryu. Super 2 also has 3 frame startup and incredible travel distance. You've probably already seen this rather unfortunate punish. Poor 12. Also, you won't see this much outside of low and mid level, but Super 2 does go through fireballs. Right, it's time to talk about what's probably the single best thing about Chun-Li, and funnily enough, it's not actually Super 2, but it's how you land Super 2. It's her crouching medium kick hit confirm. This is Chun-Li's bread and butter. Crouching medium kick is a great normal in its own right, but it has an extremely long cancel window, and because of this, you can do the move, input the double quarter circle forward motion, react to if it hits or if it gets blocked, and if it hits, you input kick. This is what makes Chun-Li such a terrifying character. You have to play against her differently when she has a super, because you can eat a crouching medium kick at any time and just lose half your health right then and there. When this happens, you're going to be holding down back because you're scared of that crouching medium kick, and when you're holding down back, she can zone you out more and more and more. And that entire time, she's building more and more meter. And remember, Chun-Li has one of the best car throws in the game, so it's not like you can just hold down back forever. Now, I don't know if I sound as enthusiastic about Chun-Li as I did Potemkin in my first fighting game Gold, but I can assure you, I love this, and this is a big part of why I love Chun-Li. I feel like a lot of characters whose game plan revolves keeping the opponent out with big normals, playing like sort of a mid-screen zoner, they want to do that the whole game. And there's no shame in that, zoning can be really cool, but I really like this idea of switching it up once you've achieved a certain goal, not just doing it until the opponent dies. I love Potemkin in Strive, and I love Chun-Li in Third Strike, but I definitely feel like I love them in different ways. Potemkin just feels like a big hulking beast that you're working to get next to the opponent, and when you do, you're rewarded with being a dumbass and winning. That's fun, I enjoy that. But Chun-Li feels a bit more calculated. You know, you start the game very slow paced, you know, you control the neutral with your big buttons, and that's fine, you know, you might build some meter, you know, it's all good. But once you build a super, then you're in control, and I really like that feeling. It's like, yeah, I'll play neutral with you for a bit, yeah, no bother, but when I want to play my game, we're playing my game. Something that's worth mentioning though, is I don't want to make it out like you need to be able to do this hit confirm to play Chun-Li. You don't. See, something I want out of fighting game garbage and fighting game gold is for people who aren't as familiar with fighting games to see what I'm doing and be like, yo, that looks really cool and fun, I want to try it out. But it can be demoralizing when you hear that something is so important to a character's playstyle and then not be able to do it. So, don't worry, I want to show you some other ways you can land Super 2. One that might seem pretty obvious, but is still important to understand nonetheless, is that you can do a jump in first to give you much more time to do a hit confirm. Outside of hit confirms, another very reliable way to land the super is through empty cancels. Newer players might not be familiar with this, so let me explain. Basically, you input a normal, and while the normal's happening, you're buffering a super behind it. So for example, when I'm doing a crouching medium kick in neutral, I'm doing quarter circle forward, and kick for the super. However, it'll only come out if the opponent does something like walk into it. So for reference, here's me doing an empty cancel crouching medium kick. And here's what happens when they dash in and get clipped. This works extremely well with back heavy punch too. You're going to be throwing out back heavy punch a lot because it's a fantastic counter poke. It has low recovery, a ton of active frames, incredible priority, and on top of that, it builds a ton of meter. Speaking of pokes that combo to super, here's forward heavy kick. This move is really nice. It moves you forward, is 0 on block, and on crouching hit, it's +4, which gives you a link into super. Also, people usually know better, so you won't get the chance to do this often, but if someone does something unsafe in neutral, like a taunt, then you can punish it with super 2. This is pretty rare, but you will see characters like Dudley or Q sometimes go for it if they don't know any better. Chun-Li has a few other ways to land super, but I'm only going to cover one more because I think it's the most interesting. That was close heavy kick. Close heavy kick in general is a pretty nice button. But it's very interesting. It's a frame 4 heavy that's only -3 on block, but what's interesting about it is that you can't cancel it to specials. Or to super. So, how did I do that confirm? See, the deal with this move is that while you can't cancel to specials or to super, you can cancel to a super jump. So what's happening here is that I'm cancelling my pre-jump frames into a super. The input for this is a little tricky. You want to do heavy kick, then down back, down, down forward, forward, up forward, and then a quarter circle forward plus kick. It's tricky, but it's worth getting the hang of in my opinion. Something pretty cute you can do is that if it's blocked in the corner and you super jump forward, you can wall jump. I don't think this makes it safe, but it's really cute. It's not remotely practical, but if you want, you can just do stomps over and over and bounce on the opponent's head. This is not practical whatsoever, but it's pretty cute. I just want to say one more thing about Chun-Li's supers before I move on, and it's something to do with Super 1 in case you're playing that. Unlike Super 2, crouching medium kick into Super 1 can whiff if it's something like a long-range whiff punish. Still significantly better than with Super 3, where this just pretty much never works. So that's Chun-Li's Super 2 and why it's incredibly important to her game plan, and I honestly absolutely love it. But with that out the way, does Chun-Li have any other weaknesses other than low meterless damage? Well, I'd say her biggest one is a lack of a dedicated anti-air. Back heavy punch is one of your better options, but it's not amazing. It's quite consistent, but it's only one parry. Honestly, one of your best options for anti-airing the opponent is to just meet them in the air. Chun-Li's neutral jump heavy kick is one of the best air-to-airs in the game. It is only one parry, and it's unsafe if parried, but some people might not be ready for the fact that they have to parry kinda early. There is counterplay for people trying to parry though. For example, heavy punch is an air target combo that hits twice. Obviously this is bad if they parry twice, but if they're only expecting to parry once, they probably won't be ready for it. On top of that, she also has an air throw, which beats all parries. Now, this is the kind of anti-air I would only recommend if a back heavy punch would kill the opponent. You can cancel a back heavy punch to a Super 2, which is quite awkward to parry. If they do parry out, you're very minus though. Again, I would only do this if the opponent is at incredibly low health, because keep in mind what happens if the back heavy punch actually hits. Now, this next part isn't really a weakness of Chun-Li, I think it's more something that's important to understand. The strong normals that Chun-Li has are really strong, but she has a lot of command normals that don't really do anything. Chun-Li's back medium punch is a 2-hitting slap. It's frame 5 and only -2 on block, but it's ruined by the fact that you can duck it. Although it is worth noting that since it hits twice, it's one of her easiest hit confirms into super. Close medium kick is another pretty mediocre normal. It kinda looks like a decent meaty, but it's honestly not. It's only 1 frame faster than back heavy punch. And back heavy punch has so many other advantages. It's got 9 active frames instead of 2, and is better on block and better on hit. What's interesting though is that if you hold down medium kick, it gets an extra 2 hits that are both overheads. Now, I could sit here and tell you like, oh, this is bad because it's telegraphed, because you can red parry the second hit and then parry the third hit, or stuff like that, but turns out it's a lot simpler than that. This is something I like to call an intern overhead, in that it's an overhead that whiffs on crouching opponents. Isn't that something? Funnily enough, it works fine on hit because close medium kick forces stand. But that doesn't mean you should go for this. It's absolutely dreadful. Forward medium kick is just a poke. It advances you forward and it's okay. It's just kinda unspectacular. The only things it really has over standing heavy punch is a tiny bit more range and the fact that you can only parry it forward. Stand heavy punch can be parried low, which is a bit odd, but fair enough. Speaking of parry direction, one thing that's kinda interesting is that you can actually parry Chun-Li's sweep with a forward parry. Here the opponent is set to tap down and then forward. It doesn't make the move any worse, it's a really good sweep. 7 frame startup and only -7 on block, but kinda interesting nonetheless. There's one more command normal that Chun-Li has I want to talk about, and that's her down forward heavy kick. This move on paper looks pretty good. It's like a grounded cross up, and the frame advantage is good. It's +9 on block and +10 on hit, so you can get some great combos off it. This move has two significant weaknesses though that kind of mesh together to make it pretty bad overall. For a start, it has 37 frames of startup, which is very reactable, and secondly, this game's got parries in it. So if you can react to it, and you can parry it, then you're kind of invalidating this move's very good advantage on block. And even at a lower level of play, where parrying might be difficult for you, there are other ways around this move. Also, she can't change up how far she jumps, it's the same distance every time. Now, if we're talking about how useful it is, Chun-Li's taunt is pretty bad. But, my guy, these animations are so fucking good. She's got a bunch of different random animations that she can do, and they all have different effects. The problem is they take so long to do, you can never really get them up, but goddamn do they look so nice. Now, considering this is Fighting Game Gold, you might have felt that I was a bit unenthusiastic, or didn't have too much nice stuff to say about Chun. You might have felt that it was weird I pointed out so many downsides, but the thing is, Chun-Li does have a lot of tools that, you know, don't particularly do that much, but her core gameplay is so cool, and I really enjoy it. It's very fun to me. I completely understand why a lot of people really dislike this character, and why you very rarely see her online, but I love her. I really, really like Chun-Li in this game, and she's probably my favorite iteration of the character. Is one of the smallest, if not the smallest in the game, and it makes her low profile. Oh my god, there's a little bird. Oh, I've never noticed that. That's so cute. Aww. Look at he go. Oh, he on the table. That's nice.